whoever the eventual nominee is, if it's your person, if it's your guy or gal, I promise you that I will stand beside you and I will work my tail off to make sure your candidate becomes President of the United States, because we cannot survive in this country another reign of terror to have the Clintons anywhere near the White House. I was speaking with a Clinton supporter a few weeks ago, and I said, you know, she is the most corrupt woman in politics in America today. And he said, I know, but I think she would do a good job. I wanted to take a few minutes before I bring our honored guests up here to just go over remind you of the history of this movement and how much success you have had, what the things that you have accomplished over the last 5 or 6 years. You know, sometimes change and progress is incremental, and it gets frustrating because you don't really feel like you're making rapid enough progress. But think about it for a moment here. Back when the Tea Party movement first started, now y'all remember that the Tea Party movement started in response to Rick Santelli and his rant on CNBC from the floor of the Chicago Board of Trade, when he was upset with the government plan to use your tax dollars to help make the mortgage payments of people who bought houses that they couldn't afford. And he said, we should have another Tea Party in the Chicago River and protest this. Now somehow, over the course of the following months, that was changed by the mainstream media, which, let's face it, is just the public relations arm of the Democratic Party. But it was the mainstream media who came up with the meme that this Tea Party rose up in opposition because there was a black man in the White House. How often did you hear that? It was purely racist. It was purely in reaction to the election of a black president. Well, if it was purely in reaction to a black president, then this Tea Party would have risen up on the afternoon of November 4th, 2008. The Tea Party would have risen up on January 20th when he was inaugurated. This had nothing to do with the fact that Barack Obama was elected president. In fact, in February of 2009, in February of 2009, we were blaming the situation in the country on Barack Obama. Where our anger was directed at was the Republican Party. We felt that the Republican Party had broken free of its conservative moorings and had lost its way, and we needed to change the Republican Party back to what it was its founding principles. And that's where our anger was directed. I remember the very first Tea Party. I think some of you might have been there. February 28th, the very first one. We met on the corner of Camp Bowie and Altamira, I think it was, outside some restaurant, and we were holding, the sign said things like, honk if I'm paying your taxes. The signs didn't say, there's a black guy in the White House. It had nothing to do with that. And then as the movement grew, the media very cleverly pigeonholed it as a racist movement, a bunch of racist rednecks. And somehow even now today I'm reading more and more that the Republican Party is just a reincarnation of the Dixiecrats. Have you heard that theme? Yeah. We're just the old Dixiecrats. But I want to remind you that in Tarrant County in 2009, we had in office here, representing us in Austin, the likes of...
Don't say her name.
Don't say it.
Paula Pearson.
Oh,
We had, who might as well have been a Democrat, Vicky Truitt. We had Todd Smith. We had Chris Turner. Chris Turner somehow managed to get, we got him out of there, got Bill back in, and then he somehow, probably Chris Turner, District 101, didn't have an opponent in the last election. How did we let that one slip by? It's the very heart of Arlington. It's not a Democrat district. He didn't have an opponent. And most odious of all, Wendy Davis. But look at the progress that we have made in that short period of time. Just a couple of election cycles. We still got a ways to go. We still got to get rid of Charlie Garrett. But we have made tremendous progress. And that's what, it wasn't just, of course, the Forward 912. There were a number of groups that were focused on this. But we have had great change. I'm going to be down in Johnson County next week. They've had great change as well. Who was your congressman down there for many years? Chet Edwards?
Yeah. Got rid of him.
Got rid of him.
Go back.
So it can be done. And it's because of people like you, because of the work that you put forth and the dedication. I've known a lot of you been on the front lines for a long time now. And so we greatly appreciate you being out here tonight. What this event is about, you know, people have asked me why I don't run for office. Because I couldn't do what they do. I can't do it. I couldn't possibly sit and have a reasonable conversation with a bunch of people I completely disagree with. I couldn't sit in committee meetings until 2 o'clock in the morning talking about highways and bridges. God bless them for doing it. You know, that's a lot of hard work. That's a lot of time away from their families. Right? 4 months where they go back and forth from their homes down to Austin, doing work that a lot of people never even know about how long these meetings go on. They just look at the voting record. They look at simply basic things, everything on the votes, maybe not the effort that was put forth in order to change legislation. So I think we needed to spend some time thanking these people for the work that they've done for us. Because, like I said, I couldn't do it. And so I called Georgia up a few months ago and said we should have an evening where we simply celebrate our elected representatives and thank them for the job that they're doing. Take all the politics out of it. Let's not talk about single votes and different policies and all that, but just make it a fun evening where we get to say thank you, and then we can grill them later on. We got 8 months till the next election. But tonight, let's just make it a good time. Let's thank them for their efforts and for their work. And I think this county should be a template for the rest of the nation. And if other counties, if let's say San Antonio had taken our approach, you wouldn't be worrying about Joe Strauss being Speaker of the House right now because he wouldn't even be a representative. So we need to, I think Ken was talking about the new group, the new direction. We need to create a template here because I think we've demonstrated tremendous success. And we need to take that to other cities and apply it there as well. And get rid of all of these people who are pretending to be Republicans or pretending to be conservatives. So I want to bring up our honored guest. And we're just going to make it fun. We're going to have a series of questions for them, but they're not going to be put under the spotlight. But first off, I want to bring up Eric Mahroum. Eric Mahroum?
Get him, Eric.
Matt Rinaldi was supposed to be here tonight. He had to cancel out the last minute, and so he sent Eric in his place. Eric, you're the...
No pressure.
You work as staff, right?
I'm helping him out.
Okay.
Ready?
The question I was going to ask him if he had been here is, Matt was able to accomplish what I thought was impossible, but would never be made in China. Is that he was able to dethrone Jonathan Stickland as the #1 conservative in the House of Representatives. How in the world was he able to do that?
Well, Jonathan Stickland had me helping him out on his
It was
staff.
great! It was Jonathan is actually my state representative, and I just want to say something real quick on his behalf. When I ran for office, Jonathan was the first elected official to come out on my behalf and endorse me. And through all the mudslinging, and he was attacked hard for supporting me. He kept his word and he stood by me. And that's a true leader right there. I'm happy to have him serve as my state representative and mentor. So I just want to say a few words. I'm honored to be here to represent not only one of my best friends, but the #1 most conservative member in the Texas House. Y'all know what he's doing. I mean, it's all over the press. You know, he's protecting our border and fighting for education and school choice. But let me tell you a little bit about Matt Rinaldi, as I know him on a personal level. Last election, he was outraised 10-1. Bennett Ratliff outraised him 10-1. But still, Matt would take time out of his race to call me up to make sure I'm doing the things that I need to do. I'm like, Matt, come on, you have your hands full, but I really appreciate that. In his fundraiser, the first thing he did was to ask all his supporters to support me. What kind of guy is that? I mean, that is a stand-up guy. I ended up going to the runoff and I lost. But Matt was the first person to call me to make sure I was doing okay and I was doing fine, and just tell me that, hey, he's been through that himself. And I really appreciate that. And I think we really need more people like Matt Rinaldi. And I love the guy. He's comes from a great family. I love his family. And I just want to say, I look around here and I personally know about 90% of all of you. And I wish I had all the time in the world to go through each one of you and just tell y'all how much I love y'all, and thank you for supporting me when I ran last year for the State Board of Education. And God bless you all. Thank y'all for what y'all do. Y'all all are my inspiration, and God bless you. Thank you.
I remember back in 2009 when this whole movement first started. I know some of you were already involved politically at the grassroots level, but for a lot of us, we were just like emerging from a cocoon, that we've been in for the last decade or so. And in about the middle of 2009, I said to our board of directors, by the way, for those of you who may not know, Ellen Brandenburg, who was Bill's wife, who was on our board, is battling cancer right now and undergoing chemo, so keep her in your prayers, please. But I've given it a lot of thought, and I said, I don't see any choice that we have other than to join up with the Republican Party. We had brought the Libertarian Party in for a meeting once, and even though I like those people, but they haven't won an election in 40 years, and they're not about to start. So we were going to start a third party, so it seemed to me that the only thing we could do was join up with the local Republican Party. But there was a lot of resistance to it back then because, as I told you earlier, most of our anger was not directed at Washington, D.C. Most of our anger was directed at the GOP for having been the party that was in power when all this happened. And so I told that to the board, and I remember Travis Cassell's first response was, I think we would lose half our membership if we joined up with the GOP. And I said, maybe, but I don't know what else we can do. And since there really wasn't a viable alternative, we agreed that at the next meeting, we would announce that was the plan. And I was Mr. PowerPoint in those days, and I had this PowerPoint presentation, and it was called The Plan. And I'm sitting in my office, and everybody walks by my office to get to where the meeting room is, and then I see Bud Kennedy and Amanda Thaja walking in. I'm like, the media is here. I'm about to reveal the plan. And I was really afraid that when I got to that slide in the presentation that said the plan is that we're going to join up the Republicans, that half that room would get up and walk out. And some of you might have been there that night. We had 250 people there. We only had 150 chairs. It was standing room only. We went all the way in the back. And I was really, when I got to that page, I said the way forward is to join up the Republicans. Then I get to see you people storming out in protest. One person from the back of the room said, to hell with that, they're the ones who got us into the situation to begin with, and walked out, and everybody else in that room stood up and cheered. And that was a great night. I don't know if anybody here remembers that. because it was the right thing to do. It was the right way to go forward. That, yeah, okay, they've let us down, they've broken free of their conservative roots, but a party is made up of its people. And we need to become the people of the party if we want to change it, we want to steer in the right direction. And I remember we had sessions on Saturdays and in the evenings learning what a delegate is. Do you remember you guys, a lot of people went through this. I didn't know what a delegate was or how to become one or what an alternate is, what the process is. What is a precinct chair? We were learning about the structure of the party and how things work for the very first time. A lot of us went through that. So when I talk about where we've come a long, long way. And how many people here are precinct chairs? I figured a good number of you would be. Thank you. Thank you. And yeah, there is still progress to be made. There are still things that we need to do to improve the party. And what district is that, Bo?
99.
Okay, that's one. But that was because you got involved. That was because you came to meetings like this on Monday nights and really got involved in the process. And we thank you so very much for that. I am going to invite up now our honored guests. So if you would come to the stage, please. Tony Tinderholt. Senator Bob Hall. Representative Gio the Dean of the Tarrant delegation, Bill Zedler. And my beloved Konni Burton. Oh, Jonathan, we got it.
I'm number one anymore, so.
That's what you get for being late.
I was like, what?
And cross them off. All right, we just want to make this kind of lighthearted. You know, we don't need to be wound up all the time. Plenty of time for that. So we're just going to ask a few questions, and then I want there to be time if you want to mingle with them and talk to the representatives yourselves. I'm going to ask one question, you can pass it down. And that would be, if this last legislative session could be named after a Hollywood movie. And the first one that came to my mind was The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. But I don't want to steal any thunder that you might have. It's going to be easiest for Jonathan and hardest for Tony because he's not going to have much time to think about it. But what movie would that be and why?
First, I have to tell you I'm having separation anxiety because I'm not sitting next to Jonathan. We're sitting next to each other on the house floor. And a bit of anxiety right now that you're that far away. You can hold up a one or a two for me, sis. I would have to say The Avengers.
Amen.
I wanted, sorry to say, Dumb and Dumber. Actually, if I were to name the movie based on my votes, it would be Dr. No.
So my usual standby is The Godfather. But I think for this session, for me, it's probably Goldfinger.
Man, I'm horrible at this. Listen, I'll go with good, bad, and ugly, and I'll explain it. Why it was. We did get some good stuff done, and there was some great stuff that we should have gotten done, considering we have 95 Republicans in the House and 150 members, and that was the bad part. And the ugly was the way to see you saw some of the great stuff get killed. So.
Oh, I'm not good either. The only thing that came to mind was Thelma and Louise, which I don't know who the Louise would be, but driving up a cliff, kind of.
For me personally, I'd have to say it was The Empire Strikes Back.
You can come back this way with you. Start with Jonathan. I ask this because I just really want to know. And this is your second term, your first. You've been in legislature for 6 months. But when it comes to you, you can think back.
Oh, yeah.
But the question I have is, we don't really get a sense of really what goes on, and what, I guess my question would be, what surprised you the most when you first came to Austin? Was it the weight of the lobbyists? Was it the quickness of the process? Or what surprised you the most?
The thing that surprised me the most was the number, at least on the House side, the number of members who literally did not know what was going to happen that day, walking onto the House floor, and they have no notes, no notepad. They're just got their cell phone and they're talking to somebody on their phone, and they literally don't know what bills. They just watch the board. That was the most shocking thing to me.
I've said this actually many, many times, and don't be horrified when I tell you this, but particularly, I say this because particularly what, as Adrian said earlier, what the media made us out to be, those of us that came, that were frustrated with the Republican Party and kind of got to be a part of the Tea Party, what they made us out to be, right? So when I went down there, I was very, very surprised at how welcoming and nice and non-judgmental that the Democrat senators were with me. It wasn't because of, me being a Republican and them being Democrats. It was because I came from the Tea Party wing of the Republican Party. Very open, very kind, very welcoming. I was very pleased with that. I don't know, I say this a lot, I know they're not all old Texas Democrats, I know that for a fact, but I think some of them are, we're the old Texas Democrats, and two, they're also the minority, and so maybe they knew they needed, us to work together, but I don't think it was anything different than they usually are, but that was very, very surprising to me.
It's a trick. I think the biggest thing that I found was I didn't understand the committee process when I went down there. And in essence, I think this is still my major concern. And if I could correct one thing in the House rules, it would be this, that if you have 76 co-authors on a bill, that bill needs to get to the floor. And it doesn't. Right now, if a committee chair does not like your bill, every other member of that committee could like that bill. Every other member of the House could love that bill. That bill is not going to get out of committee.
They can throw you out of the committee.
Exactly. Now, having said that, there are some committee chairs that are pretty even-handed. And I've seen them where, if you've got the votes, they'll bring it up and they'll vote it out. But let me tell you, there are a lot of committee chairs that if they don't like the bill, it's not going to get heard or it's not going to get a vote on. The other thing is that when it gets into calendars committee, I thought initially if it got one tag on it, it slowed it down a little bit, and if it got two, it slowed down a little bit more. Man, let me tell you, if the chairman doesn't like the chairman of the committee, doesn't like the calendars committee, again, doesn't like it, it's never going to get out. It doesn't matter if everybody else is okay with it. It's not going to get out. And the real problem with that is this. If you're a lobbyist, all you got to do is lobby a couple of people, and you're going to kill that bill. So that was the biggest thing that was a surprise to me, and it's still the thing that I think needs to be changed. Because basically the way it is right now, one locally elected official has the power of life and death for a bill that's in that committee.
Hold on a second. I want to ask you on that. I did not know that was the situation. Is that by intent? Is that a way to prevent the body from exercising as well?
Oh, sure.
So it's intended. What do you need to do to change that rule?
Well, I think you need to change the House rules so that, in essence, if you get 76 co-authors on a bill, that bill will come to the floor.
But how do you go about changing House rules? Because that sounds like a real problem to me. I mean, for the first time.
Take down Airbnb.
Yeah, you.
I thought at the very first, at the beginning of the session, okay.
Yeah, and unfortunately, too often, they tie that in with a vote for the speaker. In other words, we have the vote on the speaker the first day, and then a few days later, we'll have a vote on the House rules. But you see, the committee assignments don't occur until after the House rules are passed.
So in other words, the process is rigged just to benefit the few at the expense of the many. Great.
So kind of on that, one of the things that happened to me in my first session is, you go through and it's like a sausage grinder, right? You just have all this work, all this activity. Wake up at 6 in the morning, you're done at 1 in the morning, day in, day out. You read your bills, you're trying to get everything under control. And at one point during my first session, we were talking about the pro-life bill, HB2, and it was just complete and utter bedlam, right? I mean, it was the most contentious place I've ever been to in my life. And we had the galleries full, and supposedly people had things that, that they wanted to throw at us, and they followed us around. And you had all the members talking and arguing and debating, but right at that moment I had my little epiphany, which is the Founding Fathers had an incredible wisdom. They had a wisdom to set up a rule, a government, our government, and with these rules, not just in the federal level, but also on the state level, that took all of this into account, right? They knew that there would be groups opposed to another. They kind of knew that there would be lobbyists. They knew all of the system would be set up. And so while they weren't here, they knew this. And so what we have in the Texas House, and I'm sure in Congress, is just a system set up where bills are not meant to pass. We filed 6,500 bills, and trust me, you're very happy that we did not pass all of those bills. Some of them are awful. We ended up passing 1,300 bills. And what a bill has to do to pass is it has to have very little conflict, it has to have support, and you have to work on those bills. And again, that's something that I go back to the Founding Fathers and I say, okay, they knew all of this was going to happen, and they set up the stage for us to be able to do that.
Well, now that everybody has taken what I was going to say, each time I changed what I was going to say, I guess I'll move on. The big thing that really surprised me is that in Texas legislature, Democrats are actually irrelevant. They are irrelevant. It's the folks who run for Republican office, the squishy ones that align themselves more with the Democrats, because the Republicans outnumber them 2-1 in both houses. And that's what really stands between us and actually having a legitimate conservative session, which I'm hoping we'll have sometime in the future. And that is by having better vetting and getting better people elected to where the Republican Constitution.
There's a couple things for me. One was the value of mutual respect, and the other was that the rules matter when it's convenient.
Yeah.
So what I did, and they can vouch for it, is I learned those rules really well. And we call lots of points of order. We got one sustained, and to talk a little bit about what Bill's talking about, I have 17 rule changes that I put together. I don't expect any of them to pass, but we're going to present a whole bunch of rule changes next time and hope that they do pass, so that when bills come through committee, that they actually come to the committees in the order in which they're passed, and they come out of committee into the floor. I'd really like to see that happen, but realistically, I saw live on the House floor that the rules matter when it's convenient to whoever's in charge. So that's the biggest thing I learned. Oh, and then there's a lot of panhandlers in Austin. I don't get it.
Failed liberal policy.
I know we got a long way to go till 2017, but what would be some of your priorities that you would like to see happen in the legislature in 2017?
You know, my priorities are probably the same as what most of the folks here are, because we actually knock doors and get to know the people that live in our districts. We did a great job with border security, but we didn't do enough. So I think that's going to be really important, because I'm certainly not a proponent of immigration reform. These people broke the law, and they need to go home, and they need to come through and process the right way. You know, everyone wants to talk about expansion of medical programs. Realistically, I just don't see that happening. But I think generically speaking, just across the board, I think transparency. It's your tax dollars that we're tagging to spend down in Austin, and I think you should know where every dime goes, and you shouldn't be taxed over here and have the money to go to something else. So I think things like the gas tax diversion that we worked on this time, things like that, that if you're taxed for anything that has to do with roads, it goes to fixing roads and it doesn't go to any other program. So transparency, I think, is really important.
Again, thank you. And by the way, let me say that you don't all have to come up with a different idea. If you feel border is the one, then border's the one, okay?
Well, I do agree with Tony on that one, that we did pass a bill to spend $850 million on border security, but all I look at is just a spending bill. It doesn't really enhance security at all when it comes to the border and buy equipment and put a few more people down there. But I'm hoping in the next session that the bill that we had that got through the Senate but didn't get out of the House for an interstate compact where we can actually have true border security will be one of the primary things to work on next time, and a bill to actually protect our electrical grid from a terrorist attack, an EMP threat. We'd be right up there with it. And the third one is to actually do something to stop toll roads. We had a bill, a pilot project to show that we can build toll roads a whole lot cheaper, freeways a lot cheaper than toll roads. The analysis in that bill showed that we're spending somewhere between 3 and 4 times as much money to build a toll road as if we were to build a freeway. So that'll be the top 3 things I'll be looking at.
One of the things that I like to work on next session that we worked on a little bit this session was privacy. If you look at what happened with the Office of Personnel Management at the federal level, is they had all this information and its data about people, and then surprise, surprise, someone hacked into it, and now possibly all of your personal information is everywhere. Tony and I worked on a 10 fingerprint deal. We worked on that privacy bill. Connie and I tried to get rid of a license plate scanner stuff, which we weren't able to get done. And I'll talk about the license plate scanner for just a minute. I mean, you go to the mall, they're doing photographs of your license plate. You go to your HOA, you go down 35, every single tow truck is going and they're scanning. It's a company out there, what they do is they're recording all this information. It goes to the police level, it goes to the state level, and now it's going to the federal level, so they can keep track of everybody, where they're going, and how it's going. So one of the things that I would like to work on, besides the license plate scanner, is some other privacy issues and making sure that the government doesn't have your personal information.
I'm not going to do over that. We did pass that bill where we made EPS, and it was across the board. Connie was even a part of that. Everyone, the Senate and the House passed that bill as an amendment on 1888, this bill. So no longer is EPS going to collect all 10 fingerprints because they did it unlawfully, and they have to delete the database of hundreds of thousands of fingerprints that they illegally collected.
The main thing I would want to do, first of all, how many of y'all know that in the state of Texas, they can put a do not resuscitate in your records without your knowledge or permission? In the state of Texas, they can put a do not resuscitate order in your medical records without your knowledge or permission. We need to change that, and we need to change it so that the only way they put a do not resuscitate order in your records is with your written permission. You know, that was one of the things with Senate Bill 202, that they said, oh, we're going to notify you. We will make a good faith effort to tell you that we've done it. And I knew when they would do that. They'd wait till 10 o'clock at night when they'd given you your sedative. And Mr. Senator, we're going to do not resuscitate order in your records. You know, the other thing is this. I think we need to rein in the power of the Texas Medical Board. We have a board down there that virtually denies physicians due process. The other thing is you may not know this, if you think in the state of Texas that your patient records are private, they are not. We've had instances of nurse investigators with the Texas Medical Board dragging in or taking in DEA agents with them looking through patient records. And there's no subpoena involved. All they have is administrative subpoena coming from Mary Robinson, who is the executive director of the Texas Medical Board. There is one person, in fact, I've already figured out the way I'm going to solve this. The next session, as I understand it, she is a line item in the budget. We're going to work to just scratch that out. Save the state of Texas a little money and get rid of one bad person.
In addition to, keeping Texas state government in its constitutional size box and all that kind of stuff. One of the things that I enjoyed, I was on Criminal Justice Committee this past session, and I really, really enjoyed it. Passed a lot of legislation, criminal justice reform. For instance, several of these that passed 31-0 in the Senate got killed in the House by one member who, because of retribution. So that's kind of interesting. But we were managed to get it resurrected and put on to a representative's bill. So all three of these bills that passed 31-0 in the Senate, we got on another bill, so they're into law. For instance, one of them is just codifying into state law, but the Supreme Court has ruled that a police officer cannot search your cell phone without a warrant. And that was a very important, I thought, bill to have in place, so that everybody knows exactly what is legal and is not. But anyway, one of the things, another thing that I want to work on next session is civil asset forfeiture. It's something that we absolutely have to fix in this country. So.
Number one, we're going to get rid of in-state college tuition for illegals. We'll call that again. I don't think we should have to take a test or pay a fee for our right to carry a firearm, so we'll go with constitutional carry again. And we're going to try and ban red light cameras. Yeah. The other thing that I will be very outspoken about is the efforts going in right now to replace representatives who have been lying to voters who are liberals running as Republicans. We're going to get them out and have a real leadership race.
Okay, our original plan for this was to wrap it up at 8:30. We're a few minutes past that. So let me two things I want to point out. First off, there is I'll get to you in a second, right? There is a silent auction of items in front. This is a fundraiser after all, to help with Get Out the Vote efforts. So as on your way out, take a look. There's only a couple items, but take a look and bid. I also want to say we keep talking about Tarrant County here. And Bob, of course, is from the Dallas County, but the east part of Dallas. I really think he deserves a little special appreciation for coming all that way to Dallas. Thank you. I want to give Ray Myers, my friend from Kaufman County, a few seconds here to talk about an event that he has coming up next month.
Thank you, Adrian. I appreciate that. I just want to let you know how much we appreciate the invite over here, and it's an honor for me to be able to ride around with Bob and see you people. Like Eric said a while ago, I know a lot of you people in here, and that's wonderful. Thank you so much for coming. On September the 26th, over at First Baptist Church in Forney, we're going to have something very similar to this. Our special guest will be Alan West. He'll be over there, and we'd love to invite you to come. Just go to kaufmancountyteaparty.org. The tickets are there, the whole description of the event is there, and again, we'd love to have you, and thank you very much, Adrian. This is a great opportunity to do things like this.
Okay, again, I can't say how much how highly I respect all of you for doing what you do. I don't know where you get the intestinal fortitude to do it. But I admire you for it, not just the actual work, but running for office is a grind. Gio, you've been out knocking on doors since the session ended. It's a never-ending process, right?
It's not a part-time deal.
But they do get $600 a month.
Actually, most of us pay to the state for our health insurance is now over $600 a month, so I think it's a net loss.
Okay. Anyway, please give them a round of applause. Thank you.